Welcome back to Tail Talk Anime. Blah, 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 blah. So we were talking about punching a particular scene before we started recording. Don't worry, I'll get to the standard intro.
Yeah.
But do you want to describe what happened?
Asked me, have you seen things going on in one? Do you know what's coming up? And I was like, I know three, maybe four things that will happen in One Piece. I have avoided everything else at all costs. And the things that I know is one, Zoro stands all bloodied and says something like, I'm fine. Don't know the context of that. Two, Eminem shows up. Don't know who or how. It's just a white guy with a do-rag, I guess. And I think he like has lightning powers or something. I don't know. Three, there is a trans character in a Japanese, like feudal Japan island. Again, no clue what that. I don't even know what the character looks like. I just know there is a trans character there. And then I told him, oh, and the last thing that I know is Luffy punches a guy, and Daniel's face lights up. And I'm like, hold on. I didn't describe who. I didn't describe where. I didn't describe anything. I just said Luffy punches a guy. And somehow you knew exactly who that was. That's every art. That's everything. That's all the episodes.
So I was like, okay, we're gonna jump in because this needs to be recorded. So I was like, I will bet some money that will be perhaps your favorite moment in One Piece.
Oh.
Out of everything, that is going to be your moment that you love.
The fact that it's Luffy centered, granted, I have a lot of Luffy slander on here. I'm going against the tides. I'm so curious. It has to be fantastic if my description was Luffy punches a guy and you just knew right away, didn't describe anything else. It must be so impactful for you to know exactly what I meant. Because I didn't even say like this big epic scene or blah, blah, blah. I saw like the 5-second clip of it happening. So I don't even really know the full context, but you're making me kind of excited to know if it's that identifiable.
Oh, it is. And like, we're going to come back. We're going to revisit this moment. And
Yes.
Yeah, out of all of like, we've talked about Luffy's specific traits and like how he's kind of an idiot. He doesn't lead or all of this stuff, but like that's where his traits kind of combine into one thing that makes him compelling.
I'm gonna have to see if it really pays off as well as you say, because I'm on the Luffy slander boat. My goal is to continue to give Luffy as little grace as possible and see if he earns his way out of prison. Which, from what you're telling me, he'll find a way to do it. So, I'm looking forward to win. I'm looking forward to that punch. And I'm looking forward to when he punches a guy.
All right. Well, with that, welcome back to Tail Talk, everyone, where we continue the great conversation. Today on First Impressions, we're back with Deonte, if you couldn't tell.
Hello, it's me again.
How you doing? How you feeling about the latest batch of content? Not our content.
I'm excited for this one. I think One Piece is actually getting better and better. And I'm really excited for what's going on in this very winter wonderland-y place.
Better and better, you say?
Somehow.
What makes you say that?
This is actually them doing what they've done on most other islands. But I think it's just something about this island and having an established crew and having more to it that makes it feel better. I think what it is number one, this is a story about healthcare.
Is it?
Yeah,
What?
you won. You won. This is an amazing story about healthcare and the healthcare crisis. And, hospital deserts, healthcare deserts. This is a great story with great themes and great concepts and all that stuff about something bigger than just the main character that Luffy points at and says, "You're drawn better than everyone else. Who am I punching on your behalf?" Does it better. And I think it helps that before this, we had a mini, like 2 episode thing and an entire island dedicated to them not picking up a new person, but instead bonding as a team and becoming people. So it feels like there was some breathing room here.
Ooh, that's good. Oh my gosh, One Piece on themes that are relevant to today. Wow.
This was made like ages ago, which is that's terrifying.
When did Japan? Japan's got a pretty good healthcare system, right? When did they get?
In contrast to who? If you say us,
I get
yeah, but who? You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair. Not to get too political, which of course we will never get political talking about One Piece. That'd be wild.
No, it's just anime about a stretchy rubber guy who gets his way or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we're jumping in Drum Island, wintry wonderland, and it starts out with the crew. They've just left Little Garden. They're doing their little business, and Nami's getting sick.
She's sick.
Oh no. And then they need to find a doctor because she's getting really bad, and that makes sense. You're at sea, which also, that's again another little nod to One Piece. Is I have not seen a piece of pirate media that really goes into like, oh yeah, you're on a ship for most of your life.
Mm-hmm.
That can be bad. What if you get sick? What if you get hurt? You got to have someone for that.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of talk about it a little bit, not to cut off full summary, but just like they kind of talk about it a little bit of Sanji's like, I already provide Nami the best food possible. If we could provide better food, nutrition, it would already be done. And Nami knows the most about medicine. She's not a doctor, but she's the best we got. So she went down, and they're really confronted with like, oh, we don't have healthcare.
Zero healthcare. And while, Luffy's a tank and made of rubber, we have some humans on board that may need some help. So they go looking for a doctor. Is there anything about that whole sequence that that struck you? Anything struck out in that little bit?
They did a really good job of displaying not only Nami's competency, but Nami's importance of before Nami goes down, she's like, hey, a thing is happening in the air. Everyone go to your positions. And they all hop on their positions and do exactly what she tells them to do, which is what we talked about in the last few episodes of there's this more egalitarian system of whoever's the expert in the field, everyone is like, we submit to you on that. If it's time for food, we all submit to Sanji on the food stuff. If it's time for directions and navigation, we all submit to Nami on this. And so it was cool seeing it happen, especially, right after we're talking about it. But I also thought it was funny of as soon as Nami goes sick and everyone's trying to do it without her, they almost go right into a hurricane. They literally almost just immediately die. So it's not just like Nami makes them better. It's Nami keeps them alive and makes them better. So there's a little bit of their display of the importance of everyone having a role, but also showing there are roles that still need to be fulfilled, like doctor. If they don't have Nami, they almost die by a hurricane. If they don't have a doctor, they're almost going to die from disease. So I like that very clear display.
That just triggered up a little thought in me that I want to bring up, talk about, not for too long, just a little bit. But like bringing us back to where Luffy started. The story started with Luffy in a barrel, right? And like not really having a ship, not having anyone. And now we come all this way and we have made quite a bit of progress. There's a crew, there's things happening, and there's people in the crew that are absolutely required. If you don't have Nami, we're going to die. If you don't have Sanji, we're going to die. If you don't have Usopp making repairs as well, the ship might not go anywhere, and then we're going to die, like, and then also if you don't have Zoro and Luffy, then you're going to die because people are going to destroy you. I mean, Sanji can also keep up. He's up there with Zoro. He's kind of got a two-purpose thing going on where he's keeping people alive with food, and then he's also fighting pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of review on, like, we have made some good progress in, like, a pirate thing, but, like, it's weird how when you're watching One Piece, you don't always feel that progress that happens all the time because you're just going along for the story, and it's progress by, like, one little section. We got this. We got that. We got this. And then, the next thing happens. So, yeah, they all jump to. If they didn't have Nami, they would die. And then they encounter someone.
Yeah, there's a guy just walking on water.
Ooh.
And it's actually not walking on water, turns out. Plot twist. It's a submarine that emerges. And it's a guy who just starts eating the ship. Like, that is the most memorable piece I have of him. He just starts eating the ship. And so they immediately just wallop this guy, just send him flying off into space. It's a very easy attack, which, leans into what you were saying of, like, kind of Sanji, but more Zoro and Luffy's purpose of being the muscle and the leaders, like the defense force. They knock these guys out and send them on their way. So it seems kind of like, oh, that's a funny little incident that happens at first until they come back later. But
yeah. Oh, fair enough. So sorry. I don't. I'm just gonna be honest because I feel like authenticity is valued these days. So I didn't watch all of what I needed to be caught up in this. So I'm looking at an outline, and I was reading it. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, they encounter him, and you say that, and I'm like, oh shit, really?
Surprise! Like, oh my gosh, is that what happened?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's crazy.
I guess if you did tell me this anime is like over 1,000 episodes and still going, so I guess it makes sense of, like, yeah, you'd forget those little things that happen over time. I'll give you a summary of what I watched, and you can let me know.
Let's do it.
You can let me know how wrong I am, because I'll be like, a thing happened, and I hope it's not important.
I'll be following along, and I'll make sure to hone in on any points that I feel like I want to point out and I want to be salient to you for as we continue through. That's kind of been my theme.
Yeah, I like that. So they send this team blasting off again, like Team Rocket, and Nami, of course, is still sick. She can't get her way out. Nami also got, like, a newspaper clipping thing. Like, she got the newspaper and noticed something that had to do with Vivi and hid it away. And she's trying to, like, keep Vivi from stressing.
What was it that she... what was the little piece?
It was talking about Vivi's homeland and how essentially, like, all these people are getting murdered. Things are at an all-time crisis. And Nami tried to hide it to not stress Vivi, because Nami's like, hey, we literally are moving as fast as possible. Showing this to you will only stress you out. It will not make us go any faster. It doesn't make sense to stress you out and get you in a worse position before we even get there. So she tries to hide it from her, but ends up, showing it to her when she thinks she's about to die and is too sick. But I think where they kind of go from there is Vivi kind of gets his resolution and is like, hey guys, I'm so sorry to ask this of you, but can you get me to my homeland faster? And Nami, who is sick but trying to play it off, is like, sure, we'll get you there. And Vivi's like, perfect. That means we need to go find a doctor, because the fastest way to get to my island is by getting you better, Nami. So everyone, let's divert from our path and go find a doctor. Which was kind of Vivi's way of joining in with the Straw Hats and being like, you guys matter to me. and not just being like, let's push past it. I need to go to my island. And yeah, lives are going to be lost when they're taking time away. But Vivi's also like, hey, the logical thing to do is to get Nami better so we can make it there. If we don't even make it there, it doesn't matter.
Is also very true, with what we were talking about just in the beginning where they almost died. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make it home, please.
Yeah. Like, we'll take an extra day to go find a doctor. Please get me home.
And you idiots are not sailing the ship.
No, they do not even know how. So they end up trying to stop off at this winter wonderland that immediately pulls guns on them and is like, do not get out of your ship. We don't trust you. Get out of here. And they're like, there's an awesome scene that I'll like dive into more later. Vivi and Luffy have to like beg to let them on to the island to go find a doctor. They get brought onto the land to go find a doctor. There is a doctor who's like a witch, and she rides a reindeer through the sky into town, as far as everyone's concerned. And she like exploits everyone for all of their goods whenever she heals anyone of anything. So they have to go up the mountain to go find her. So Sanji and Luffy take Nami up the mountain. And as they're going off up the mountain, Zoro is defending the ship, and Usopp and Vivi are hanging back. So we've broken into new teams again. Usopp and Vivi find out that the doctor is not up the mountain. She's actually in a town nearby, meaning Sanji and Luffy passed by her. They missed her. And they're still going up the mountain. So now everyone's scrambling because everyone's not where they should be, and they're trying to figure out where they go. And eventually, Luffy makes his way up the mountain, and he's now carrying Nami and Sanji because Sanji's like risking his life to make sure that Luffy can get up the mountain carrying Nami. The doctor gets back there, and they meet up with her. They end up healing Nami and Sanji and Luffy. But the people that they fought on the sea followed them back, and it's actually the old ruler of the island who was evil because he was a ruler's son. Go on.
No, I'm just adding colorful commentary.
I love it. But the guy that they kicked into space who was eating their ship was the old ruler's son, and he became the new king, and he enacted this law of the 20 MDs, where he said, essentially, we're executing and exiling all except for the 20 best doctors, and those 20 best doctors will stay at the palace with me and do whatever I want and focus on me, and if anyone needs medical care, they have to come and beg to me. Which, wouldn't that be horrible if a government made... Let me not.
Look, we can engage in these political dialogues just
in the One Piece universe.
Yeah, in the one, it would be, that is wild, holding medical care over someone's head like that. You gotta beg, maybe pay to me in order to live. It's pretty crazy.
Maybe, and I'll decide if I deny it or allow it to pass. That's crazy. But there are a couple of rogue doctors who are trying to still treat people through the land, and we find out the backstory of like, these doctors are getting hunted down, and essentially they get the king out of there, and there's only one living doctor left, which is the old lady, and she's training a reindeer who ate the human fruit, so he can now talk like a human and like have a stand on two legs little cute form, which, I mean, come on, it's adorable. That's probably why I like this arc. He's so cute. And so she's training him to be the best doctor ever because the last doctor was training him too and took him in like a son. There's a whole backstory thing there. They end up just kicking this king's butt again and freeing the island, and they changed their entire political system to no longer be a monarchy. And then the crew leaves with this little reindeer boy called Chopper, who is the character on the island that Luffy points to and says, you're drawn better than everyone else. Who am I punching on your behalf? And they take him, and now they have a doctor.
So do you feel a little bit better about Luffy punching on his behalf this time, or is it the same story?
No, I like it less. Luffy didn't even know his name. Luffy literally did not know his name the entire time this time, which is crazy because every other time he like learns someone's name. This time he doesn't even learn Chopper's name. Nami learns Chopper's name. Nami learns this little kid's name and very clearly takes a maternal role and cares for him because she is the girl of the group. Vivi is not the girl of the group. Vivi is an established character. Nami is the girl of the group, who I still respect and is an established character as well. But you know what I mean? Like she's the first girl, so she's the girl.
Exactly.
Luffy doesn't know this reindeer's name, which I don't take as big of an offense because Luffy is played up to be a dumb idiot in this island of like, it's a transforming reindeer. It's going to shoot a laser. Why would he think it has a name? Why would he think anything? You know what I mean? He's played up to be a big kid, which I think endears him. Yeah, someone talks about like eating him. They tried to eat him at one point, and then they learned he can talk, which I don't think that stopped them. I think it was when they learned he can fight that they were like, oh, fight for us.
Yeah, and it's not even like, oh, we learned you can fight, so you're going to put up a fight, so we're not going to eat you. It's like, oh, yeah, you're a human now.
yeah, you're a human, and we will now assign you human qualities like don't eat. Which is, I also need to comment, it's not until they've already left and they're on the ship that Luffy finds out Chopper is a doctor. He thought they left the island, that Nami got better, they left the island, and they didn't get a doctor. They just got a pet reindeer. They had to explain to Luffy, like, no, he is the ship's doctor. We need one of them. He's like, he's a doctor? Yes, that was the point of this whole thing. And normally I would hate Luffy for this, but they did a really good job of playing him up as like a dumb kid. And maybe it's because they put him next to Chopper, who is a kid. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I see his childishness as more endearing now. And yeah.
You know, that is a very interesting point I want to go into a little bit on is as the Luffy hater, I definitely understand a lot more in the beginning his childishness coming off as potentially even like more malicious, ignorant of people's desires, stomping over what they want, and you're doing what I want. But you know, I wonder how much of that can be ascribed to Oda finding his stride. So the author finding his stride in storytelling and being like, okay, this is kind of a bit more where Luffy fits in, is he's having more of an endearing stupidity rather than a overbearing stupidity.
Yeah, I think that's valid too. Like we talked about it a little bit of like 20 years of writing, you're going to learn a lot of things. And even the best stories, you know, when you first create characters, you have to figure out who they are, how the audience responds to them, where they fit into the narrative. Like, it is natural. And I think this kind of set of episodes really shows the author's ability to kind of like display Luffy's stupidness better, because there is this continual theme where characters will talk and be like, here's the thing that's going on and the plan that's happening. And then at the end of the explanation, Luffy's like, what? And then they're like, here's the too dumb for anyone but Luffy version, which is the summary, which I think it is a very smart way to be like, we're going to explain in big detail what's happening. Luffy's going to be too dumb to understand. And then we're going to give a summary to kind of, here's a quickie notes to like know what's happening. Like that is a very smart device that makes it feel better than the anime characters constantly monologuing about the plan to the people who should know the plan. You know what I mean?
You know, I really like that you pointed that out, because I've had this kind of idea in my head of good ways to write a main character in a complicated fantasy story. And the idea that I've seen as most successful and is a good thing to take if you are an author writing a story on a fantasy is to have your protagonist not know the world. Yeah. They are foreign to it. They don't understand it, because then you have your best friend side character explain the world to that character and it doesn't feel like monologuing, and they react to it the way you would. So Harry Potter's a great example. Harry didn't grow up as a wizard. He doesn't understand the wizarding world. So Ron comes in and he's like, you don't know what a flibbity gibbet is? Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
Let me tell you, it will eat your grandmother. Oh.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know, you have Bilbo Baggins, who is a hobbit and goes out and doesn't know the world because he's from the Shire. So everything gets explained to him. Same thing with Frodo. Doesn't understand the world. It gets explained to him.
Every isekai anime ever.
It's a trope that happens a lot in some of the best, you know, fantasy storytelling. And it's interesting. I've never thought of this method of using that, of making your main character really dumb. So he already knows the world, but doesn't understand it, so it needs to be explained.
Yes, because no one really thinks to make a main character so stupid. You generally want to make main characters competent enough that you root for them. But ironically, or I guess not even ironically, but it's just the author of this is like, I'm going to make my character so dumb he needs it explained, but I'm going to try to do it in a way that's so endearing everyone likes him for it. Everyone laughs along at or with him. Because the best one that I've seen is Avatar: The Last Airbender of Aang is from 100 years in the past. So whenever he goes to a place, his friends tell him, here's what it's like now, because you don't understand. And he's like, well, here's what it was like 100 years ago. So it's a back and forth dialogue, which feels like there's some naturalness to it. But this way that the author is doing it for One Piece, for Luffy, I'm kind of like, oh, this is better than the, as you all know, air is the chemical compound that we all breathe to stay alive. Like, why are you explaining that to me? Luffy needs it explained because they're like, here's the plan, guys. And Luffy's like, what? Okay, Luffy, here's the version for you. And really, Luffy's supposed to be so dumb that his version is for us to get a quick summary to help us. And then we feel smarter than Luffy. That's the thing. Unlike other things where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm as dumb as Harry Potter, this makes you feel like I'm smarter than Luffy because I got it. It makes me feel better about myself.
So all that to say, that's an interesting storytelling device. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Thank you.
Okay. You were continuing with your summary, were you? Where were we?
That was actually the whole summary. They get Chopper on the boat and then they leave the boat. And Chopper is kind of like adjusting to the boat life and like, oh my gosh, is everyone okay? And Luffy like takes down a bird. Is just like the last thing that happens. Luffy gets picked up by a bird and Chopper's like, guys, Luffy's picked up. And I think it's Zoro who's like, did Luffy ask for help? And Chopper's like, no. And he's like, then why are you worried? If he wants help, he'll ask for help. And then Luffy takes down the bird.
That's very fair. Okay. I had a few things during the summary that I wanted to dive into a bit deeper.
Yeah.
One example would be Luffy and Vivi begging because they were met with guns. So, again, full disclosure, already said I didn't catch up on the homework for this one. However, as a One Piece diehard, I have seen the live action, and the live action has covered this part. I have been avoiding using the live action because I've been meaning to go back and like compare it, you know, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But in that one, Vivi is very much the one who makes Luffy essentially beg. Is it the same? I don't remember. Does that happen in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the live action, so I don't know the full comparison, but essentially, you know, they park the boat in the water in between the land, and everyone comes out with guns and is like, get out of here. And Luffy's like, no, my friend needs a doctor. Let me have a doctor. And someone shoots, and Vivi kind of jumps in the way and blocks Luffy, and then she goes down, and everyone's like, oh, gasp. And then Luffy's about to punch people, just about to just start swinging on the whole village. Side note, Luffy was going to just start swinging on all those villagers because someone shot his friend. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Vivi gets up and stops him and is like, it was only a graze to my shoulder, which I was like, okay, well, you were very dramatic about it then, if it was just a graze to his shoulder. Like, you laid on the ground and did not move. I need you to understand this is kind of your fault. And she tells Luffy, if you attack, essentially. If you attack them, if you get violent, if you lash out, what does that do for Nami? Nami won't get better. Nami will get worse. So she gets down and begs. And Luffy admits, oh, you're right. And he begs too. And that was the moment that I was like, because the last island, Vivi and Luffy spent one-on-one time together, this feels earned. That Vivi has continued to be the better leader in that sense. Luffy is creating a specific environment on a ship, but Vivi has the leadership skills that Luffy needs. And she now has earned the right to mentor him through this. And even Luffy, as dumb as he is, takes the advice and is like, you are correct, Vivi. Head down, which love that. I think that's so cool. That's so great in so many ways of Luffy takes advice. I think that's the first time that I can think of where Luffy hears something from someone else and he's not like, yeah, I don't believe in that. I don't care. I'm going to punch someone. That's the first time that he's like, oh, I need to calm down and do a better thing. I'm going to listen to you. I'm submitting to you.
So that was exactly why I wanted to come back to that moment, is because in our last episode, we were talking a little bit about Vivi being the better leader than Luffy and having more of the experience and all of that. And even, Luffy not even really being a leader, it's a very horizontal power structure. So it's very much the crew's kind of all together, but this is the first time that we see him kind of being a bit like a captain and being like, oh, if I just, which I could kill this whole town, but what I need my crewmate to survive. Please help me. And he lowers his head and stuff. And that's a good moment.
Yeah. I think it also reflects that his style of leadership is not the typical expected leadership from the Western perspective. It's not Luffy talking about, I am so-and-so, son of so-and-so, leader of such and such. I deserve this respect. His style of leadership is him saying, my friend needs help. Please help my friend. Not even my crewmate. You know, and it's not a role in a position. He is asking for his friend's help. And that entreats the heart of the Ox guy, who is like the old military leader of the old kingdom and whatever. And he's like, we'll help you. Because Luffy's style of leadership is very friend and family based. You know what I mean? And he's still learning things from Vivi, but it is very much based on there's an equality here and we are helping our friends.
It's almost a culmination from the last arc of Vivi being like, you guys are idiots, take this seriously, to being like you even said it in the last episode. I think I'm not going to be able to say it exactly as you said it, but you were like, you need to step up and be a better leader. Here's how you do it right now. Do this. And I mean, what do you know of Vivi's past? What do you know of her story?
I know this arc, it tells us that Vivi, especially at the end, the Ox guy gives a little bit of a backstory. Vivi is a princess of the kingdom that they're heading to. And there's an incident where like the young king of this place, the bad king, slaps Vivi as a child at a summit to try to like rile up some inter-kingdom conflict. And Vivi as a child, takes a slap and is like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I wasn't watching where I was going, to try to diffuse any political conflict that would have arisen, because like they're at this summit where all the kings and queens and leaders of all the, countries are gathered. Anyone doing anything offensive could cause a war. So she, from a very young age, is royalty and just thinks about the well-being of her kingdom and others. So I know that much about her.
Okay, cool. And we take that information and we see that, one, it's not just about being a leader. It's not about being king because it's another king that was very disrespectful to Vivi. But she takes this lesson that she has learned from being a good ruler and then imparts that to Luffy. And Luffy then takes that and uses it to be able to save Nami.
And I think two things as well that are very interesting is one, on the last island, when it's Vivi and Luffy and they meet the giant, Vivi kind of steps back and lets Luffy lead a little bit. She still pushes back on things. She's like, hey, giant, you shouldn't go fighting when you're injured, because she cares about people, but she kind of understands this is more Luffy's realm. She kind of knows that. But when it's surrounded by townspeople, villagers, she right away is like, nope, this one's mine. Luffy, put your head down. But two, as well, you mentioned this in the last episode of when Vivi is like, these guys are dumb. They're not doing anything. Nami is there saying that's how they are. Vivi can rest assured that Nami is competent enough to make up for their lack and get them in shape, because right after that, something goes on and Nami calls a command and everyone stops being dumb and just falls into their roles naturally to do what she says. Vivi looks at Nami and says, you are competent enough to know when to crack the whip and get people in shape, and it works. So when Nami goes down, Vivi immediately is like, I have to get Nami's back by being the one who cracks the whip and says, Luffy, put your head down, bow, beg.
I like that. That's a very good point. She fulfilled the role that Nami could not at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
they passed the Bechdel test. They didn't talk about a boy.
I was wondering. I was possibly gonna bring it up in the next episode. I'm like, should we pay attention and see if these female characters pass the Bechdel test?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool of like, oh, this is a really good way of writing women. And this was back in like the 90s. Like, this is in a time where it's like women are meant to be looked at for specific body parts and no more. And so it's like the fact that Vivi and Nami have been having this bonding back and forth over multiple episodes is really cool. It's really important. It's really helpful. I love it.
So we have spent a long amount of time talking over, the crew that we already know and everything.
Yes.
We need to get into Chopper a little bit here. So they get up the island, or they get up the mountain, they meet Chopper, and what were your first impressions? And how do you feel about his backstory, his father figure, his idea of pirates? What do you think about all of that?
Yeah, Chopper is brilliant, beautiful, amazing, best boy ever, 10 out of 10, love him forever. I would kill for him. He's all that ever needs to be. Everyone else can get kicked off the island. I love Chopper. Chopper's great. His backstory is beautifully tragic. He is incredible. I just like him. And just to make this clear, I'm not normally the guy who falls for like the cutesy character. I don't think that's it. To be honest, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. They made a cute character. Good job. They gave him a giant hat. Love that for Chopper. But I think what I like about Chopper is he is just a guy trying to survive in the world. He's just a guy. He's just a cool guy. He's just a chill guy. But I think what's really important about him is Chopper was a deer who ate the human fruit. So he had sentience thrust upon him in a magical grand way. And when he got the human fruit, he tried to go into civilization and everyone started shooting him. This is a very shoot first, ask questions never kind of town. I'm not mad at it. But unfortunately they shot Chopper. So he's rejected by humans, who he always was interested in. He tries to go back to the elk, the deer. They want nothing to do with him now that he's eaten the human fruit. They're like, you're a weirdo. So he plays this very interesting role that like anyone who's caught in between two worlds feels. You know what I mean? Anyone who's like, I'm not fully accepted by either, but I am a part of both. The only person who accepts him is his crazy doctor, who is not good at his job. But man, does he care about curing people of whatever sickness is, even if it means giving them new ones. He cares so much. And the doctor, his big dream is to make cherry blossoms because he is a doctor of the heart. He's like, I'll fix physical things, but this is a community that needs to have their heart healed so they can progress and move on. And the doctor being a part of his backstory, I actually cried real tears, like legitimate real tears, when the doctor had his thank you Chopper moment, which I don't know if you want to get into that now or later. I legitimately cried. So that's how impactful those characters
Let's get into it, because are these your first One Piece tears?
I think so, because I'm like, I didn't really cry. I didn't cry at Sanji's stuff. Zoro didn't like really have a backstory to get into that deeply. Like, he had a thing, and I was like, oh, that's sad. Oh, he will. Oh, it's
Oh no, I said you will. I said
I will
cry at Sanji's backstory. I'm like, you will.
Oh wow! So if I cry at Sanji's backstory, I will be surprised, because I'm normally immediately turned off by the pervy characters, but I'm keeping an opener mind to Sanji. I think first One Piece tears, because I'm like, I didn't cry at any other arc. Nothing else was that compelling to me. This moved me. This got me. Like,
so that that is the thing about One Piece. So I don't know if I've fully let the tears fall, but that's because I'm traumatized by toxic masculinity and have a difficult time letting tears loose, unfortunately. But
loser. Go on.
I know it's awful. I think I have, though. I think I have. There's been several moments in One Piece where I just cannot. There's a few other animes that like have gotten me to where I'm like, no. I don't think these will be your last tears in One Piece.
Wow. I don't doubt it. Just knowing the length of it, and the fact that the author got me once, I'm like, ooh, they know the right buttons to press. They know what's up.
They do know the buttons to press, and I'm really glad that you said that, and I'm really glad that you experienced some real emotion in this, because I think you're going to end up being a One Piece diehard, my friend. I think that's the first inkling of like,
there's something there. Because I'll be honest, up till this point, my feelings of One Piece over the episodes has been like, this anime is weird, to like, okay, this is watchable, to this last island, me being like, oh, when do we watch more? Like, welcome. I'm starting to get there where I'm like, so when do we watch more episodes?
That is the journey. That is, legitimately, just to give a little bit of backstory, I started One Piece as I have some free time, I want something to throw on.
Crazy.
So I was just like, I'll just, it's one of the ones that you're supposed to watch, put it on, see what happens. And that's how it starts, and then you just follow along, and you're like, yeah, okay, cool. And then you get into it a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I want to watch some more. I want to see what happens. And then it keeps going, and then you're like, oh dear God, please.
Crazy that this is what you chose for your free time. I don't know how much free time you thought you had.
That was back in the day. I had a lot of free time back in the day, and I was just like, just throw something on. I'm gonna be doing stuff. Anyways, I'm glad you had that reaction. So let's dive into it. You were saying that the doctors, it was the doctor's moment with Chopper.
Yeah, it was the doctor's like the goodbye Chopper moment. Because here's the thing, this anime up until this point has been very much, especially the last island kind of encapsulated the most of like, this anime is very big on like, what are you willing to die for? What are you willing to violently throw your life on the line for? That's what this anime is very much about, of like, who are you willing to get into confrontation with? What big threat are you willing to fight? What mountain are you willing to overcome? It's a very, you have to be willing to throw hands to prove that you care about something or you don't care kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And Chopper's backstory showed just as much passion without it being about fighting. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yes.
Which was so interesting to me of like, oh, this author might have some range on them. Because I think, and this is probably, I think this is the best way to explain it. Normally, fighting shonen are very big on we fight. And there's a power scaling. You can tell who's strong enough to beat who and how that works and da-da-da-da. Right now, I don't know if Zoro or Sanji is stronger than the other. Not because I'm like, they have equal feats, but simply because I'm like, I don't know how the durability and the power works here. You know what I mean? How many slashes can Sanji take? How many kicks can Zoro take? You know, but like, it's not a very, as fighting shonen as it is, at this point, there's not a lot of ways to really tell who can do what. There are just super powered people who punch until the plot decides they're no longer punching. And then there's humans who are like, a rock to the face is a lot. That hurts. Don't do that to me again, please. Like there's Usopp and Nami, and then there's Sanji and Zoro and Luffy. You know what I mean?
Very much so.
So I think it was cool to see like, oh, the author knows how to go outside of the battle shonen, because I'm kind of like, they need to either develop more of the battle side, or they need to be okay kind of expanding outside of it. Because it needs to either be more than just the fighting, or the fighting needs to get deeper. It's kind of like the depth or the width issue. So this did a really good job of showing more of a wider scope of what it can mean to care about something.
Nice. I love that. I love that take. Yeah.
I know that didn't answer it, but I wanted to give you a second to speak just in case.
That's good. Like, going forward, you definitely find reasons that are not fighting to care for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they almost start to like intermingle, where it's this world where you have superpowered people and you have not superpowered people, and how does that work? And you like explore that, and it's cool. So yeah, I'm not sure where to go from here, to be honest. With that's a pretty peak thing, and
yeah.
Chopper goes to figure out what it means to be a pirate.
Yeah,
Joins the crew.
He leaves to go figure out what it means to be a pirate after they've kind of killed the village and rebirthed it into something new, because that's kind of a big theme on this island of like rebirth, both in the sense of the cherry blossoms, of like a new thing blooming, in the sense of when does a thing die, and also in the sense of like even Chopper's entire existence is this commentary on Chopper was a deer and then ate the human fruit and was rebirthed into this new thing that stands in the middle of humanity and deers. There is a constant theme of old things dying to make way for a new thing to happen, and Chopper now fully stepping into the world of humans by getting on the ship and going to figure out what it means to be a pirate. I will say the big crescendo for Chopper and the Doctor, kind of like where you're going at the end, is the Doctor takes Chopper in and teaches him to be his mentee. The Doctor is not a good doctor. Chopper at that point was also not a good doctor. The big ending is the Doctor has this fatal disease that he can't recover from, and his whole life's work is to spawn an agent that turns snow into a pink, kind of like glowing-ish color to represent cherry blossoms, to let the village see the blooming of cherry blossoms, similar to what the Doctor saw in the past that brought him to life. And so he's spending his whole time creating this art project while trying to teach Chopper how to be a good doctor. Chopper finds out that the Doctor has this disease. He's reading through the Doctor's books to try to find something, and he finds out that there's a mushroom that can heal any disease. And he goes to try to find it, and it's in the place where his old deer family party exist. And so the deers are fighting him because they're like, do not be here. We don't want you here. Da, 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 da. Chopper ends up bloodied and bruised. He lost an antler, all to get this mushroom. He gets the mushroom. He brings it back to the doctor. And the doctor tried to like play him off and was like, all right, I've taught you everything you need to know. Goodbye forever. Get out of here. Go live a life. Because the doctor's like, I'm going to die any day now. I'm at my ends. I don't want Chopper to see this happen. Chopper comes back bloodied and bruised, brings the mushroom. And it's like, doctor, I got the mushroom. You'll be healed of everything. The doctor bandages him up, makes a soup, eats the soup. Gosh, you can hear it in my voice. And it's like, oh, it tastes disgusting. And Chopper's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, that means it's working. That's good. You stay and rest here. Because an alert goes out, like, at that moment. And it's like, the 20 MDs, the only 20 doctors left, are all in danger. The doctor's like, you stay here, Chopper. I'm going to go heal and help the 20 MDs. He leaves. Chopper's like, yay, I did so good. I healed the doctor. I'm a great doctor. Yay, yay, yay. Doctor leaves. The doctor's friend, who's the witch lady, comes back. And Chopper's showing off like, I healed him. Here's a mushroom. I used to heal him. That doctor starts beating that child. She beats him down. And it's like, you fed him a poisonous mushroom. There is no medicine that can cure everything. That has a skull and crossbones next to it, which in a medical book means death. You thought it was good because the doctor taught you the skull and crossbones on a pirate ship flag is freedom and good. You mixed up the two. You killed the doctor. Chopper starts bawling. He runs to go try to chase the doctor down. The doctor's up there. He gets to the top of the castle, or the top of the hill where the castle's at, and it's a setup. The king has just made this fake announcement to rule him out, to ruse him out. And it's like, the 20 MDs are fine. The doctor drops to his knees and starts crying. And he says, thank God it was just a trick. I thought the people wouldn't have health. I start tearing up. I start tearing up because I'm like, this man is walking into a death trap. And he says, thank God. I thought the people lost their doctors. I'm glad it's just a trap to kill me. That man cares so much about his city, his town having health, that when the king tricks him to kill him, he says, oh, thank God, I thought they lost it. And then he has this little speech where he's like, when does a man die? When you put a bullet through his chest? No. When an incurable disease kills him? No. When he drinks a deadly poison? No. A man dies when his name is forgotten. And he says to himself, Chopper, your poison will not kill me. And he makes himself a bomb. He drinks a drink and explodes to start taking out the army. This man went up there bomb strapped and ready. He was like, I'm here to save the doctors. I'll kill myself to get those doctors out of there, as that's what it takes. That is the man that I started crying for, because I was like, that level of care, that level of humanity is so precious. That was the best written character I have seen in this entire manga, and I will cry for him every time. Because the fact that he buckled over and teared up and started crying and was like, thank God, I thought my villagers were not going to have health care. I thought my villagers, my people, were going to just die of sickness. Whew. It was good.
My guy, you were giving me chills. You were giving me chills because I'm re-experiencing all of this as we speak, and I'm like, huh.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yep. And last thing, Chopper declares to the lady, because Chopper sees the explosion go off, and he goes full beast mode and runs up there, and he's about to start beating everyone. But the ox guy, who was, again, a part of that kingdom, stops him. And Chopper sees him crying. He literally cries tears onto Chopper's face. And he's like, don't do this now. It's not worth it. Don't throw your life away. Because the doctor said, as he was about to blow up, the doctor said, there's a monster who's coming here. That's my son. please don't hurt him. That's when I cried. And that monster showed up, and that Oxman did exactly what the doctor said. He was like, I'm not going to hurt you, man. Get out of here. Save your life. And Chopper goes back to the witch doctor and tells her, because she was like, there's no medicine that can cure everything. Chopper says, I will be the medicine who can cure everything. Teach me. And he gets taught for like 3 or 7 years by her, and he becomes an amazing doctor. But the fact that he fed his master poison, his master begs for his life, and he goes back and he says, I'll be the medicine that can cure everything. This arc was phenomenal. I don't care what anybody says. This is the one. This one wins. More of this. I don't want anything else. I just want more of this.
So I have to point out something.
Yes.
Because I think this is the first time you're experiencing the glory that One Piece will become and is heading towards.
Mm-hmm.
One Piece is excellent at that because it will get you eventually on an emotional thing. And so it builds symbols and an understanding of a character that is somewhat unprecedented. For example, right, Chopper, I'm genuinely, I don't remember if this becomes like a plot point at some point. I don't think it does. But like, Chopper's hat was given to him by his pseudo-father, right? How valuable do you, as a viewer, understand that hat is to Chopper because of his backstory?
Yeah. Like that. When I think of it, I'm like, that hat has to be as valuable to him as Luffy's hat is to Luffy, where Luffy's like, I will subconsciously punch anyone who tries to take it. And he gives it to Nami, and it's supposed to be this big grand thing. In my mind, I'm like, Chopper's hat is more important than Luffy's hat because I saw the development.
So, like, it's the same kind of ideal of it's good at building symbols and understanding a character's perspective to where now, again, I don't think this happens, but like if Chopper's hat got burnt up in a fire, we would all be like,
yeah.
You
yeah.
know?
We would care.
We would like, no, I understand why that's so important. Or to see the pirate flag, or if Chopper breaks down at, rose petals, you would be like, I get it, man.
Yeah. If every time you saw cherry blossoms, he just starts crying, I'd be like, yes, 100%. 100.
But that type of thing, it takes the legwork. It takes putting in like you were there, which is hard. It's hard to get started. It's hard to get started on that momentum because you have to already be drawn into the characters we've experienced. You have to already kind of be invested in them, and then they go through their little story, and then new characters have new story that's developed, and it keeps going.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece there of like, you need to make a likable enough character that you're willing to look at them and care about their perspective for them to build the pieces in. Like cherry blossoms now, I'm like, oh, if I see cherry blossoms and I see that Chopper sees cherry blossoms, I think of this. And I understand how that goes. And I was thinking of when Chopper was getting on the boat and they were leaving, I'm like, this one impacted me so much. But how will that play out in the future? Because I'm like, Zoro had things that mattered to him. Sanji has things that matter to him. Nami has things that matter to her. But it's kind of like everyone gets their arc, their little story to talk about their backstory and why they're special and for you to love them. And then it's kind of like, all right, we're closing that book. Hope you love them. They're just existing now. You know what I mean? Like, when are we going to talk about Nami's care and importance of money and why she's like, you get little things of like, oh, Luffy, you burnt up my jacket. Okay, well, 300 times interest. And it's like, okay, yeah, Nami likes money. But are we ever going to get to those deep levels again with these characters once we have them? Or is that it? Like, I'm wondering, like, am I going to see more of Chopper care about his adopted father? Am I going to see more of Chopper caring about cherry blossoms whenever he sees them? Or did we kind of close that chapter and we're like, all right, that's done. There's only new things going. You know what I mean?
We'll dive into more character stuff. So, we did pretty good on this one. I feel like I don't feel like there's going to be a part 2 for for Drum Island. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you have more to say on the topic? Because I feel like we should dive into it right now.
Honestly, my thing is Chopper is what matters. It doesn't really matter. Like, anyone who's watching this has probably already seen One Piece, so I don't need to talk about how, like, Luffy had to carry Nami and not punch anyone. Like, I care about Chopper's backstory and the fact that the doctor cried when he was like, oh, thank God it's just a trap. That's the core of what happened here to me. Everything else is like, yeah, people running around to towns and everyone's in the wrong town and trying to renegotiate. It's just, navigation. They're fine. I think the important things were touched on. At least that mattered to me.
You know what? Actually, I have got two more things to dive into.
Yeah.
One's related to lore, and then one is related to the world. So the first thing is we dived into a little bit of Vivi and her experience at some kind of summit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That summit is the revelry, and it is relevant later. So, the kingdoms all being together and like having this situation is very relevant to the world. Mm-hmm. Did you have any takeaways from that whole situation? And I'm talking more of the larger, not just specifically with the characters of Vivi, but like, if I remember correctly, her father is mentioned there, or you see her father, you see some of the other rulers and how they interact, and kind of a little bit more of a glimpse into the world government.
Yeah, it's the scene there of the revelry is what you're calling it, right?
I believe that's what it's called, yes.
Yeah, it's meant to really display how bad the new king of this snow town is and how good and wise Vivi was at such a young age. But there is still the fact that there was this meeting of all the local leaders, and not even just local, like small town, but like big, of like there is this impending doom coming, and that was still addressed. That was still mentioned. It wasn't focused on, but like that's the backdrop of why they're there. So I'm like, there's this thing coming. Is that the thing that's causing such a disruption in Vivi's hometown? Is that really the root of this civil unrest going on there? And therefore, because Vivi is, one of the Straw Hat Pirates, Luffy's going to come in there punching. Is that the thing that's going to kind of catapult them onto the grander stage of there's this thing that kingdoms were gathering together to meet, and now Luffy is going to find himself in the midst of it, helping his friend Vivi. And Vivi's going to protect her kingdom by going and pursuing and fixing the thing.
Okay, that's good. It doesn't become super relevant until a bit later in the story, but it is a recurring theme, like the going all the kings meeting and stuff. The second thing is the Zoan type devil fruit.
Yeah, they mentioned that of like the one that Chopper ate was a Zoan type.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of the types of devil fruit? Have we gone into that yet? I don't remember.
I don't believe so. I remember when the smoking guy, Smoker, was introduced, they kind of talked about how there are different types of devil fruits, and this is the first time that it's kind of like more addressed and a little bit deeper brought into, and it really only goes into the Zoan type, which I think the Zoan type are the ones that transform you, like, because they even talk about like, oh, you are the deer, you have a Zoan type fruit, you have 3 transformations, and Chopper's like, I have this pill that gives me 7. He was like, what? So there seems to be kind of like a rule set in charge, and the Ox guy seems to also have a Zoan type where he can have a human form and then he can have an ox form. And I was also curious, like, what happens if a human eats a human fruit? Like, what does that do? What if an ox eats ox fruit? You know what I mean? Like, or what if, you know what I mean? Like, there are those kind of questions. But I did notice, like, okay, there's something going on here.
Yes, I've questioned that as well. And there's a bit, I think we do dive into it a bit later, but I wanted to bring just a little bit of attention to that because there's some lore there that we've explored, and then there's some world building, and of course the characters that we have gotten into. But I think that kind of concludes our Drum Island episode, which appears to be, or Drum Island summary, conclusion, overview, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be your favorite.
Oh,
and it feels like the barest inkling of the little hooks might have just
might be putting themselves into me. I think it's interesting that it was my favorite because like the violence, like the fighting seemed to be such a non-threat. You know what I mean? Like the king and his two guys come in and no one's like, oh, they're so strong. Everyone's just kind of ignoring them. You know what I mean? Like the fighting is not a big deal. The rabbits that are chasing them, no one's really giving them any mind. The king and his two men, no one really, like, it's just kind of like a show off of what Chopper can do. Luffy is not threatened. None of the Straw Hats are threatened really in any way that matters. So I'm like, this was the least threatening island that they've been to, and yet it engrossed me the most because it was less about will the punches be punchy and more about the characters. And I loved that. So yeah, top tier favorite island so far.
Ooh. Oh man, we're really getting into it.
Hoping the next one is just as good.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that's what you say about all the islands. So we'll see.
That is not what I say about all of. Maybe it is. I don't.
It's only been like 5 islands. Don't worry.
Yeah. Next, we got a pretty big one coming up. So that'll be real good. Yeah, I don't think we got anything else. I think that's kind of. I had for the briefest inkling an idea of something I wanted to ask you, but I think we've done a pretty good job of covering all of this. So next time we're going to Arabasta.
Arabasta? Okay, let's go.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. It's been super fun. And join us for the next time when we're going to be getting into a little bit more lore, a little bit, and this is kind of the conclusion of this little segment arc.
Island.
We were trying to find the word before.
Yeah, I don't know how they section these off, but I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more.
All right. Well, join us next time. Keep your eyes open for it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.